Welcome to the Let's Be Honest podcast, Chaos and Clarity in Education. I'm Dr. Nash.
And I'm Dr. Atkinson.
Today's conversation sits at the heart of something every school leader experiences, but often struggles to name, measure, or improve.
We're talking about relational intelligence, the idea that leadership effectiveness is not just about strategy, systems, or instruction, but about how leaders build trust, communicate, and connect with the people they serve.
This concept has been brought into a sharper focus through the work of Dr. Edoho Eket, who challenged us to rethink leadership through a relational lens. Because the truth is, systems don't implement themselves, people do. And people respond to how they're led.
Dr. Edoho Eket, welcome to the show, and please tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nash and Dr. Atkinson, for having me. I'm so excited to be here for this conversation. So my name is Dr. Edoho Eket, and I have served in public education for 21 years. I started my career as a kindergarten teacher. And then, I wasn't sure about leadership. That wasn't something that I thought that I was going to do because I really love being a classroom teacher. But I had so many amazing mentors and people who really poured into me. And so I was able to transition into school-based leadership. So I became an assistant principal for 4 years. And for the last 7 years, I've been serving as a school principal. I also serve as president of the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals. I absolutely love that work and that role because I get to interface with so many amazing leaders, not only in our state of Maryland, but across the country. So I'm really blessed to do this work.
That is amazing. You're a woman who wears many hats.
Yes.
You do them very well. I'm a big fan on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for the work you're doing in all the different areas you're doing that work. Now, speaking of the work, so there's a difference between managing relationships and relational intelligence and how that plays out in the school. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, relational intelligence really centers on people. And I think sometimes when we think about how we're managing our buildings, we don't always first think about the people. We might think about the systems and the how we do things. And Dr. Johnson and I co-wrote the book, Relational Intelligence, the Key Factor to Exceptional School Leadership, because we want to put that focus back on people. And I think when we're working with a very big school, and all of us do, we have large systems, lots of people. It's important to remember we cannot move systems without the support of people. And we cannot move people without trust, communication, and that real sense of getting to know someone on a personalized level. And so that's part of the reason why we wrote the book, because we want to put that focus back on the most important part of our buildings, which are the people that we serve.
That's amazing.
Trust as a foundational driver. In your experience, what does authentic trust actually look like between a school leader and the staff?
This is a great question because I think as school leaders, we know the importance of trust, but sometimes it's elusive. Sometimes it takes time to gain there. Some of the factors that I would say, I know I've built the trust of someone when they can give me honest feedback. And one of the things that we talk about in the book is having the opportunity for upward feedback for our staff to participate in. In our role as school leaders, we are often the people going into classrooms and telling teachers what areas of strength they have and what they can do to improve. But how often are we asking ourselves and are we asking our staff the question about ourselves? So I think you have really developed a sense of trust with your staff when staff can walk up to you and be honest about how they're feeling. Or after a meeting, instead of hearing whispers and rumors, people will come up directly to you and say, hey, I want to put this on your mind so that here are some things that you may want to consider. Here's how that came across. And in the moment, it's not always great to hear feedback like that, but I have always said I would rather know how you are feeling honestly and transparently so that I can make some adjustments or my leadership team can make some adjustments. So one of the biggest factors that I've seen in terms of that trust being authentic is, do people feel comfortable giving you feedback? Do people feel comfortable being in partnership with you as the leader? Those are two really important factors that I think about.
And being comfortable dealing with the leader and sharing feedback with the leader takes some time and effort. It's got to be intentional. How does a principal intentionally build that kind of rapport?
Yeah, that's another great question. So one of the things that I like to do is in the beginning of the school year, I usually give it about a month to maybe a month and a half. And that's the time when I start asking for feedback right away. Because when things settle in, you start to see and notice that there are some systemic things that might need some tweaks and some changes. And so that's the time that I start that 100-day survey. And I will say to staff 3 questions. What is going well in our building? What are some things that can be improved in our building? And is there anything else you want me to know? And, just from those 3 questions, we glean a lot of information. And after we do it, we usually will talk as a leadership team with my assistant principal and the leaders, and we will come up with responses and we'll talk through, hey, we received this feedback. What can we do? Is this something that we can change? Is this something that will help enhance the school? Then we're going to do it. And then we always come back to staff. I will either have a meeting followed up in writing with this is the feedback we received and here's how we're going to respond to it. And that's really important for closing the loop on trust, because sometimes as leaders, we'll ask for feedback, receive it, and then nothing happens. And so over time, if that happens enough, staff will say, I'm not giving you feedback anymore because nothing changes. And that's what we don't want to happen. We want staff to continue to tell us what we can do, what's working well, what can be improved. And then we have to make some action steps towards making those improvements so that our school gets better over time. So that's something that I always encourage leaders to do. It doesn't feel natural all the time to ask everyone for feedback, but I think it's important because we hear from our custodial team members, we hear from our paraeducators, we hear from our classroom teachers or our related service providers. So that really helps us have a full picture of what's happening in our building at any given time.
Thank you. In many schools, leaders focus heavily on instructional systems, but less on relational systems. How do systems unintentionally undermine relationships, even when leaders have good intentions?
So I am guilty of a lot of things. And I remember years ago sitting and listening to a keynote from Beth Huff, and she had mentioned, sometimes we like to take shortcuts with our communication, and emailing is one of them. So I'm someone that prides myself on auto-scheduling emails and making sure that all of the information goes out at a certain time, at a certain day. I want to be intentional about that. But what I've realized is sometimes emailing is an appropriate way to communicate, and sometimes it's not. And when I have the chance to send an email or to walk up to the person and tell them that information in person, I'm learning the importance of walking up and telling the person in person, because that gives me that time to be one-on-one or in a small group with the team. It makes it feel more personable. And every time when I've started a conversation about one thing, it can turn to a conversation about something else, whether it's personal or professional. And so what Beth was saying in her keynote was making sure that we are not taking shortcuts with technology to save time, because people are more important. They're worth our time. So if we have the choice to send a quick email or to have that conversation in person, we should be having that conversation in person. And that really spoke to me. And that's something that I'm continuing to work on in full transparency, because systems say, let's get this timely, let's get it done. But people work differently than that. So that's something that I'm consistently working on, and that I encourage other leaders to do as well.
I hear you. And everything you just said would make your staff feel seen and heard. It's got to be more intentional than we're actually making it. On a daily basis, we can lose sight of all of that, right? Because we're so busy. Mm-hmm. But the people who make the work are our staff members. And we got to make sure we're intentional with them. So let me ask you this. How should the principal supervisors, moving from principals now to principal supervisors and district leaders, shift their focus if relational intelligence becomes a priority, not just outcomes, right? Because they're focused on outcomes a lot, but how those outcomes are achieved.
I love this. We were just talking about this. We had, for Principals Day, we had a celebration down at the Maryland State House, and we got to meet with Lieutenant Governor. And we had this discussion about how can superintendents and district leaders really support school-based principals and assistant principals. And one of the things that we talked about was principals do a pretty good job of trying to manage the emotions and trying to support our teachers and staff, but who's looking out for the principal? And so one of the suggestions that came out of that conversation is that district leaders, principal supervisors should be having those check-in calls with principals, not just, hey, have you completed your data for this? Or, hey, I heard from a parent about this issue. It should be, I want to check in with you. How are you managing the stress of the job? How are you and your family doing? Is there anything that I can do to support you? And I think if principals, the more that principals have that experience with our supervisors, I think that will help trickle down everywhere. That is modeling for the principal what we should be doing for our staff. And at the same time, is providing that emotional buffer that many principals do not have, because we're kind of trained to go, go, go. Until, unfortunately, some people go, go, go until their body tells them it's time to stop, mentally or physically. And that's a big part of my work. We never want to get to that point. I've been there before, but I'm choosing not to go back to that work. So having a check-in from a superior, even every now and then, makes a big difference in the mental health of principals and assistant principals.
I've been there as well. My first year as a principal in 2015, man, I failed miserably at so many things. I failed at academic performance, but more importantly, I failed at the balance for me, you know? And then when I figured that out my second year, we knocked it out the park. So you are absolutely correct. You take care of yourself so you can take care of everyone else.
Yes.
So are there any other barriers that prevent leaders from consistently demonstrating high relational intelligence in high pressure, as Dr. A had mentioned, in high pressure environments?
Definitely. Time is number one. You know, everybody is very busy and it is choices. And I have said to my teachers and colleagues all the time, you know, I could send an email to a family and maybe it's a simple email, maybe it's a simple message I need to send, or maybe it's a complex message that I would send. And so when I think about the choice between making that personal call and sending that email, I'm going to make the personal call, because a lot of times emails are misinterpreted, or that's an opportunity for me to do that voice-to-voice personalized contact with the family. And again, I think it's time. You know, a lot of times we think I'll just do the email because it's faster. When in reality, if you go back and forth with a staff member or a parent, you're spending more time. So a lot of this is making that personal touch and contact with everyone that we serve, because in the long run, that investment of time, that short investment of time, is going to pay dividends in the future. So time is definitely a barrier, but I think we can make some good decisions on how we can use our time. And other barriers are just kind of general things. I think sometimes people say, well, I'm an introverted leader, or that's not a strength of mine to do small talk. And these are all things that can be developed. These are like communication skills. So we talk about communication skills in the book. This has nothing to do with if you're introverted or extroverted. It's more about how are we leveraging the skills that we have, and do we have a commitment to improving? Some things people say are budget funds. I can't pay for lunch every day for my staff like they want that. Okay, that's true. None of us have money for that. And food is expensive. But could we do snacks one day? Could you have donations coming in from your community and distributing them to your staff? That's what we did this week for Teacher Appreciation Week. Our PTA had a breakfast totally donated from the community. So I think, again, it's some of the barriers are things that we can truly work through and come to understand their value, and then they're less of barriers in the process for relational intelligence.
Love it. We're having Teacher Appreciation Week as well. By the way, last week it was National Principal Appreciation Day. Well, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do. Now, with everything you're doing, leadership can be so demanding. And you just spoke about the balance, right? What do you do to sustain yourself? And what would you tell people like myself or Dr. Nash? I don't know if he's there yet, but sometimes I do struggle with that balance.
We all do. And one of the things that I've been talking about for a long time, you said you started, Dr. Atkinson, in 2015. My first year was 2019, 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I can tell you at that time, I had no boundaries whatsoever. I was go, 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 and we were at home. So there was no barrier between home and school, you know. And I thought about when I went back to work, at least I could get in my car and drive somewhere, because when I was at home, I was working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day without a break because there was no separation. And it got to a point where it was so bad. My children at the time were very young. We were very busy trying to get them with virtual learning. I decided I was going to leave the field of education. That's how bad it got. And through therapy, I came to understand how I could do my job in a better way. But it was because of therapy that really saved my career. And one of the first questions the therapist asked me was, are you eating and are you sleeping? And the answer to both of those questions was no. Are you working out? No. Are you doing anything for your mental health? No. And so once I came to understand, and she was very, very simple with me. She said, well, before we do anything else, I want you to just commit to eating food. Commit to going to bed at a reasonable hour. Commit to doing some form of exercise. And then let's come back together and see how you feel. And I felt so much better that first week just doing those three basic things. And I never forgot that, because once I was able to have sleep, because when you don't sleep, you don't make good decisions. Once I was able to eat, I was definitely less irritable. And when I was working out, I found that I had the energy and the stamina to go through a full day without getting tired. And so those are things in my routine I have kept ever since. I work out every single morning for 10 minutes. That's it. Just 10 minutes. I don't go to the gym, but I do a workout every day for 10 minutes. That is enough to sustain me. I eat my meals. I try to go to bed on time. I'm not perfect with that, but those three things have helped me. I also do not answer emails after 5 o'clock. If they're work related, I'm not doing it. That's a time for my family. And I make that known. I'll say to staff, hey, our kids are in high school. They're in band, they're in orchestra, they're in soccer, they're in track and field. I will be at those games with my husband, watching and supporting our kids. So that also helps me, because what I try to tell leaders is you are more than one role, right? We're parents. We're sisters, we're brothers. We are leaders of different organizations outside of our school system. We volunteer in the community. We do lots of different things. And I think that sometimes if you get bogged down in saying, I'm a principal and that has to take up 100% of my time, you put that unnecessary pressure on yourself. And so for me, what I've learned to say is there are so many tasks in a day, there's no way I'm going to get them done. And I just have to accept that. I do the best that I can. I prioritize tasks so that by the end of the day, I feel good about where I am. But if I have not finished something, it gets written down on a to-do sheet for the next day. And then I go home. And that's how I do it.
Very simple. Very simple. I like the fact that you do 10 minutes of exercise each morning. And so for our listeners, I think that, I'm going to start with me, Dr. Nash. I'm going to start with me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 10 minutes of exercise just like you in the morning. I think that's something that will definitely help me. Now, how do you do that? Do you go to YouTube and find something for 10 minutes?
I have done the same workout on YouTube since 2022 when I entered therapy. That same. I go on the same one every morning. And what I tell people is it's much easier to maintain when you're doing that 10 minutes a day than to try to swing back and to lose weight or things like that. So for me, maintenance is key. And I've been the same for a very long time. And that is centered on my discipline. That's what I'm saying is I'm a disciplined person. And so 10 minutes a day, a free YouTube video, everybody can do that.
Awesome.
So Dr. Edoho Eket, how can we learn more about your work and your book?
Awesome. So the best way is to go to racheleddoeket.com, which is my website. And the book Relational Intelligence is one of the tabs there, but all of my socials are there as well. My name, if you just put it into Amazon, you'll see this book. And I really hope that listeners take advantage of reading this. Dr. Johnson and I wrote it specifically for school leaders. We have included lots of practical ideas because we are practitioners. And so sometimes when you read a book, it's not very specific. It's more aspirational. And that is not our book. Our book is very practical. And we try to include stories of how we are applying this in our daily work. So I'm really appreciative for this opportunity. And I hope that people enjoyed the book and stay connected with me. I'm really excited to connect.
And thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the Let's Be Honest, Chaos and Clarity in Education. We appreciate you.